to keep the cost down. Those are the major operation changes within the engineering budget. As far as capital goes, I want to apologize because I, for some reason, did not get it into the forecaster, but I would like to budget for capital this year in engineering. What we're looking at doing is asking for $528,000. What this money would be used for is for a sidewalk on Franklin Road, essentially from downtown to Liberty Pike. Now, I know that the Franklin Road project has been brought back up. That project is around a $10 million project in the CIP. We're unsure as to when it's exactly going to get some type of funding with the talk of streetscape. I do want to highlight that Jamison Station will be contributing around $484,000 to the sidewalk fund. Obviously, if the Franklin Road project is in the near future, this would not make sense to do. However, if it's very far off, this is a much-needed connection for the city of
Both sides of
Franklin.
the street, right?
We would just look at one side of the street.
I'm glad I asked.
That's a very good question. Very good question.
This is something.
Side, that's a good
The
question.
east
The
side,
Von Chef side or the
the east side,
coming out of
Yeah.
town, right or left?
right,
Thank you.
The BGA
Going
side.
up.
PGA side. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So the total cost would be around $1 million.
No, total cost is
They're only going to do
$528,000.
one.
We're expecting that Jamison
So
Station
a
will
net of
contribute.
about 62,000 versus the contribution additional that would
That,
be there.
and this is coming into us because they are,
Yes, they are.
We're over 400,000 right now. So
Oh, really?
that's not
Okay.
on the come. Most of that's
right,
already here.
that's
So
what
that,
I was
So
sure
you just
of.
need $62,000.
Wow. And we could get that done? We could actually put that sidewalk in?
If we get the rest of this. Is there a trigger? Is that, how does that,
We need that
is it based on number of units or something?
it's per unit.
Yeah, it's per unit.
Yeah, and see, they're
Yeah.
moving.
Every time they pull a building permit, they have to pay a little bit towards it.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the right-of-way there? Do we have it?
There is, no. Well, with the Franklin Road project, we don't need a whole lot of right-of-way, but however, if we do this as a separate project, we did include funding to purchase temporary easements, or it would be a permanent public access easement along these properties.
But it's going to cost a little, I mean, well, we know, we bought right-of-way before. but-
Well.
Correct, and we factored that all into
We
it,
did.
and we've looked hard at this number.
Because I would, yeah, those would be important figures to have, because, with Bell Historic going in now, and we've got a lot of action going down there, and some things are picking up Jameson Station,
Would you say Bell's what?
Bell Historic,
That's
those
the
apartments.
apartments.
Okay.
So
that's
now
part
we're
of
going to
it.
have the foot traffic, we're going to have the opportunity.
That's
to
really the
walk people.
Jamison Station.
That's the Jamison
That's the
Yeah,
Jamison
right.
Station.
And with the factory in Harlansdale, we've got so much more there now, and with those coming in line, the sidewalk, I think, is critical to the connectivity of our downtown and our merchants and all the activities.
You want my chair, Margaret?
It's good, good, I'm glad you got that.
Here.
And that's just a,
No, but you didn't.
you said a $528,000?
$528,000, yes.
Great, okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
There you go.
If you
Yeah.
get this, if we get the sidewalk in on one side, what does that mean about the position of the project for streetscape and priorities?
It's up to you.
Yeah,
That's
however
your call.
Well,
board
I've
decision
asked
later.
that it be brought to the table. And I will repeat, I know it can't be done this year or even next year, but I do want us to remember it and know that we do need a turn lane there. And if we get one sidewalk on one side, I don't want us to think it's over, that it's finished, because it isn't. So I would like
Yeah.
for us to
Okay.
keep it on the table. We need the sidewalk last year, but if we
Sidewalk in.
can,
I think that's their point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
and
get
this-
that sidewalk in
yeah,
at least, that
the
helps.
sidewalk would be fine and it would be wonderful and a help. But I don't want that to mean that
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're throwing Franklin Road down.
yeah, and that's not what we're saying. We're just providing this as an
We're saying,
option
hey,
for you.
It's going to continue on your CIP
great
list
if we can
and
get
the
that.
priority list.
Yeah.
It's 21, and the last time you prioritized it,
we need that.
it's just going to be part of what you look at.
Oh,
But this is something to kind of bridge that.
Okay.
All right.
All right, moving on to traffic operations. Last year's budget, there was around $1.2 million approved. Want to highlight that $1.1 million of that was ARA funding that will not be carried forward in this next year because we're completing that project. The proposed budget this year is $226,484. Once again, I'm going to highlight the major increases. We're asking for $40,000 additional in consulting services. What we do with our signal corridors, you have the Cool Springs 96 in the downtown, we look at doing a retiming study. This is the year of the Cool Springs timing study. Last time that was done was in 2008. So we'd really like to look at updating that. It's recommended to do every 3 to 5 years. As part of that project, we would also look at doing a holiday timing plan. The total cost of that is $140,000, which is $40,000 increase from last year. As far as repair and maintenance, with the additional fiber optics that we're putting out there for our ITS system, we're asking for an additional $5,000. Last year we had $10,000 budgeted for emergency type repairs. This year we're increasing that to $15,000, which is a total increase of $5,000. Machinery and equipment, we're asking for one backup TV. The TALK currently has 6 TVs that we project the different intersections on. 2 of them are getting extremely old, so we would have this if one of them dies, and we are projecting one of them, or one or both of them, to go bad within the next 2 years. We're also asking for a new Toughbook. It's basically a computer that we input signal timings into the signals. The computer was purchased in 2006 and is really old and needs to be replaced. In addition, working with IT, we've gotten into a Cisco Video Matrix. It's a hardware for our video. It's a lease payment associated with our cameras. It can be used citywide for any cameras that we install in the future. So we wanted to pull that out as a separate line item going forward and budget $18,000 for that lease payment.
So that would be a yearly lease payment?
It would be for 3 years, so we've already paid 1. We have 2 more years, and then after that,
Then what happens?
it would go away.
2 more years.
2 years. It would become our system.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's a lease.
so
So we don't have to pay
Lease
more.
down.
Lease down.
Lease
Correct.
purchase.
Lease purchase.
All right, so at the end of that 3 years, we pay no
That'll be time to replace
difference.
it,
Correct.
right?
That's right.
Yeah, we have this year, and then we'll have next year where we budget, but
What
we,
are the lifespans of those?
Sorry,
That's a good question.
Get 'em
What's
made.
the lifespan of that?
sorry, Kevin.
Well, this is the first one we've had, so I don't really know, but most of the Cisco stuff that we were getting, we're seeing at least 5 years out of. so.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Cisco usually has a pretty good guarantee on theirs, too.
Yeah,
don't they?
and we've gotten almost 10 years use out of most of the equipment that we have in the talk now anyway,
I would
so.
think our guarantee on that. Cisco's.
I'm getting punchy out.
I need a
Okay.
2-minute break.
What else?
This one stands.
all right, moving on to traffic capital. Last year's budget, we were approved for $2.5 million approximately. This year, we're asking for $2,125,000. What we're looking at is the SR 96 Southwind intersection. It was approved in last year's budget for $35,000. We're finishing up the design. We just want to carry that forward so that we can have the funding there to improve that intersection.
Is that, oh, yeah.
Cameras again?
No, this is actually an intersection improvement, looking at making some turn lane modifications, signal head modifications.
Okay.
It's got that little concrete.
Correct, we take out the
And-
concrete medium and add a turn
let-
lane.
Just clarify, too, when we talk about cameras, we're talking about traffic, cameras that monitor traffic, not red light cameras.
Correct. The
Correct.
city does not have.
That's correct.
I know that, but people are watching this
We
at
didn't buy
home.
it.
Yeah.
We do not own, nor do we have, any red light cameras that take pictures of you and then send you a bill because you went
Not
through
yet.
that light.
No,
Not yet.
we do not have a
On my
single
watch,
one.
on my vote, never. But
And as an additional note, we don't record any of the video that we do.
and you
get
don't
in.
record any of
Not
the
a bit
video
of
you
it.
do. But we do monitor the traffic situation, so people
much
need to
did
know
you
that.
say?
For you people out there, as Dana would sit, watching at home and playing along, we've got, that information. I think it's important.
For the South Winds intersection, it's $35,000, and actually, we're looking at doing the majority of that work in-house with the street
In-house, yeah.
department
Good.
and through our annual contractor.
That's good.
One signal project that we're looking at incorporating into this year's budget is the Mallory Station Road and Mallory Lane at South Springs project. The estimated cost is $210,000. We currently have a design. What we're doing is upgrading pedestrian facilities, adding an additional turn lane, and upgrading all of the signal equipment associated with the intersection.
Yeah.
Is it gonna, can you go straight across on the new one as opposed to?
Zigzagging?
You're gonna have,
Yes,
zigzag.
yeah.
If you're going across.
Yes, you
because
should
your
be able to
lanes
go-
don't match up.
Should be able to go straight across.
Okay, good.
In addition, we're asking for $290,000 to be carried over. This is actually for our Talk Phase 3 infrastructure project. This was actually already approved by the board in January. It was approved in last year's budget. We're just not going to complete the project, so we're asking to carry that funding forward.
So there'll be a grant revenue offset on that.
This particular project's 80/20 match.
Yeah.
So
Is this particular project what?
An
80/20 match.
Oh, okay.
And has already been approved by the board. In addition, we're asking for $90,000 associated with the traffic signal upgrades. Essentially, we keep that money in reserve to upgrade traffic signals. One item that I'd like to highlight that we're looking at possibly using that for is for the Southeast Parkway. Right now, the developer is required to do that improvement. However, we're working with him. If for some reason he's not able to do that improvement, we would draw from this account to do that work and somehow work to recoup that money through the development as their development moves forward.
Is that Southeast Parkway at Columbia?
At Columbia,
At Columbia.
yes.
We had
Okay.
police department run a tally. In the last 2 years, there's been 19 accidents.
I can imagine.
So
Yeah, it's a
And
very
we are actively working with the developer to try to get them to do those improvements.
Yeah,
Then the final item is $1.5 million associated with the final build-out of the joint IT and Talk fiber optics. It's an 80/20 match. It was approved in last year's budget. We haven't moved that forward because we're trying to finish up some of our projects. So we want to just once again carry that forward to this next year. Moving on to stormwater operations, which was sent out as part of the street department, I'm going to highlight the engineering portion of that budget. Last year, we had approved $52,000 approximately, and this is engineering's portion of it. This year, we're asking for $360,865. A lot of that is in consulting services that was actually in the capital last year, but this year it's been corrected and moved to the right location. I'm going to highlight the major increases once again. As far as the contractual services, we're asking for $85,000 to do an impervious surface update. This was last done 7 years ago. The GIS department recently reflew the GIS aerial image, and this would essentially update that impervious surface to update our billings. So for the last 7 years, we've been doing the best we can to put that in as these developments come in. This would just correct that.
And that will have an effect on how much we charge them.
That will have an effect on how much we charge residents.
It won't change the actual base rate, but it may, a few customers may have a slight change in their,
Change in the.
yeah, plus or minus, you know, a certain percentage.
does this help us with information for our state grant for stormwater?
No, because stormwater billing is completely separate, because
No, not
our
the
state
money,
permit is unfunded mandate, so we use this to be able to fund our program to be compliant.
In addition, we're asking for $100,000 to update our BMP manual. It was last updated in 2002. We do have a new permit coming out. The requirements have changed. Our BMP manual is very outdated, so we'd like to get that updated so that we can have guidance on how to let developers comply with our new permit requirements.
Yes.
Best
management.
I'm sorry, best management practice. Sorry, it's stormwater best management
I'm in the room,
practices.
you always need to back up.
Yeah, I'm bad about that, I apologize. And then also $100,000 for stormwater management master plan modeling. That was actually included in the capital last year. We're shifting it to where it should be as consulting services. And a bunch of, basically what we're looking at is some of our smaller streams, looking at the flooding over in those areas, looking at potential CIP projects that we could incorporate into our stormwater CIP budget.
We should say, really, all of this is going to be paid through what we charge people.
Correct.
Stormwater fees.
Yeah.
Correct.
Somewhat self-funding, thank you.
The remainder items, I'm not going to go through each one of them on here, is a major increase is associated with TDEC and the EPA have reassessed some of our streams. We've had a bunch of streams added to the, basically the impaired list, and they're mainly impaired for sediment. So we do have around $11,000 increase in consulting and sampling services associated with these streams being placed on that impaired list. Moving on to...
What does that cover, that 11,000?
That would actually be the increase in sampling services, and there's a long list of different type of tests that were required.
Okay, so it's just sampling and testing.
Sampling and testing, that's correct. And that's all based on the minimum permit compliance. When they're added, all of a sudden, we have additional testing, sampling that we're required to do.
Okay.
We do most of the sampling in-house. A lot of it is equipment costs, and the other portion is the analysis that we don't have the capabilities to do
out for?
in-house, that we have to send out for.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Okay.
As far as stormwater operations, stormwater capital, last year we had around $2.9 million approved. This upcoming year, we're asking for $1.84 million. The projects that we're looking at doing this upcoming year is the Battle Avenue design and construction. That's at $1.1 million. In addition, we're looking at trying to get a study going for, and a preliminary design for the Parkview drainage improvements area. This is over on Adams Street. Both are in the stormwater CIP and have been on the books for years.
And needed.
And
I
very-
see Margaret going, yes.
And very needed. In addition, we're requesting $500,000 to continue our on-call stream restoration, design, and construction, looking at moving two out of the 3 projects this year into construction, carried over. As soon as we get those moving, we want to fund the design of 3 more projects.
Question.
Good.
What is on-call?
That's just the way the contract was set up and the line item was, but we did a RFQ to select consultants, and we selected them to be on an on-call basis. So as the
okay, for the
projects
consultant
arise,
then.
we can select the consultant.
All right. That makes sense, okay.
In addition, we're looking at $75,000 for our regional detention basins. If you remember, the board made the decision, or the city made the decision to take on certain lakes as city lakes, and looking at doing repair and maintenance to those lakes over the years. As you know, Jackson Lake, we're currently dredging.
Costs a little bit more than 75.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's
This,
awfully,
this would be designed, to get the design going in 1 year. I'm trying to be realistic, this is what we can actually get accomplished.
in 1 year.
And we got Liberty Hills, Maplewood, Jackson Lake, the West Haven Lake, the Williamson County Medical Center Lake, to look at one of those projects to at least get the design moving forward on them.
Those are all done.
No, but they're talking about working on them.
Working on them to do maintenance type
Oh,
of
maintenance,
repairs.
okay.
Correct. And then in addition, we're asking for $100,000 for our stream and rainfall gauging stations that we've put up over the cities to continue to monitor rainfall, stream flows, and looking at doing some repairs to the existing ones we have.
How many rain gauge stations do we have? I'm just curious.
I believe we have about 7 right now,
Different places? in the
different
city?
places all over the city, and
Never knew.
a lot of them operate on cell phones right now, and we're working with IT to change that to wireless, to remove the cell phone bills over time to basically gather that information.
Really?
And in addition, we're
That's
working
smart
with the wastewater treatment plant. They're going to use some of them to do some of their required sampling.
Smart, that's good.
And that's the end of my presentation, so
Wow,
we'll
that's
open
a
up to
lot.
questions. That is a lot.
You did that very well, though.
Thank you.
You've got a lot of
Through it,
things
too.
already.
Well, when are we going to break ground on the Royal Oaks, Columbia, Park County?
Notice to proceed was issued last Monday, and Stance will be submitting the submittals for the project. They anticipate being able to start before May 1st.
Good.
I just want to highlight something that was mentioned, but I think is important. In engineering in particular, and we talked about the shift, we've consolidated all our engineer group during this year. And under Paul and Dan's leadership and the whole team, have really brought both what we review from an engineering standpoint in terms of the development component and what we do with city projects all together under one team. And I think that's worked very well for us. It did what we hoped it would do. We're continuing to work and develop that team in that way, but this budget reflects that. And so that's why there's some shifting around to some of those things, but I just want to compliment that team and what they've done to do that. I think this is reflective of that good work, so I just mentioned that now.
Thank you.
Way to go, guys.
Other-
I don't know. I think you guys are doing a great
Very good.
job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Covered your bases, Benny.
Okay, next,
All right, Joe.
street manager.
Joe, take it easy. I need a break. I can't sit this long. I just can't.
Can you beat that? That guy's good. Oh, come on, Joe. He's not in for red truck. Good.
Dance and sing for me.
We got 12 minutes. 12 minutes.
I can't sing too
That's the
much.
same.
We don't have a PowerPoint, we do have handouts.
Thank
You're
you,
old
sir.
school. Old school.
These guys are good, too.
What happens, I'm just quiet one time, what happens to the interim, like, we have 2 interim people, don't we?
Yeah, we're in the process of reviewing those positions for permanent appointment, let's put it that way. So we've actually just recently
I like that.
closed out those interviews. So,
We have to
Oh,
be
you
fair,
closed out the,
blah, blah, blah.
okay, good.
yeah, so we're in the process of reviewing and going through those.
Okay, so who's Steve? I've never seen him.
Introduce, you have to know Steve Grove.
Steve Grubb, nice to meet you.
Steve.
Steve Grubb
David
is,
Barker.
Steve Grubb is my assistant director.
Hi.
Steve played a very integral part in putting this budget together for you tonight. David Barker, our fleet maintenance supervisor.
I thought I said
put
Parker, I
together-
was like, wow, we have 2 of them.
We have a Barker
Okay.
Hey,
He's way on down the alphabet.
And one of the things you gotta admire about Steve is he's an Ohio guy.
He is a Buckeye.
Yeah.
But he is for Vandy tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's good. So what's the latest?
Last night kicked her up,
Vanderbilt.
way up.
2 minutes left, Vanderbilt's up by 7.
Ooh, it's getting a little tight.
Only 7.
They were, but there's some news release here that Ohio State.
Yeah. Beat Wisconsin or something.
Okay.
Are we waiting on?
No.
No, I don't think so.
We got all our dancing and
She
singing.
said, she
I just want to let you know, we have been monitoring the weather, and so far, we have no flooding that we know of, so.
I was about to say, are we gonna go out and find our cars, just keep them together?
I'm glad these guys didn't have to leave. I kept checking.
Any chance we could have got.
If it please the committee, we'd like to start out with our personnel. And on the first page of the handout, at the bottom, you'll see the street maintenance division. We're asking for no new personnel in street maintenance. If you turn over to the next page, we have streets traffic. Is that too close? We have streets traffic. This year, we're asking for 1 new traffic signal technician. We're at the point now, we have 100 signalized intersections throughout the city, and as you heard from the previous group, there's more on the way. We're also maintaining over 500 of our streetlights. That does not include the downtown parking garages, and we have now taken over the police station parking lot. So we're asking for 1 new person there. In our fleet maintenance, we're asking to fund another senior fleet technician, and we're taking away 1 mechanic's position. When we get on to fleet here directly, we'll explain what we're doing there, but we're looking at moving people up in-house. And in our street stormwater, we're looking for no new personnel there. Next page is an overview of our street maintenance division. Operating services, expenditures to be down from $21,250 to $14,500, but this is due in part to monies from our uniform services going to uniforms purchased. We have found it's more feasible now to actually purchase the uniforms for the employees instead of going through the service. And we have also appropriated $5,000 for public relations concerning leaf routes. This year, we're going to get out the leaf routes to the public so they'll know exactly what days they'll be picked up.
That's good,
So,
because I found, I just called and found out some, but that's helpful, yeah.
In our utilities, that's up 800 from 823,400 to 855,710. We're fixing to take over the street lights on the new phase of McEwen, Phase 3, so that is why that's up. And professional development and travel is up from 5,000 to 12,550 for more training, education, certification, and public works conferences. Operating supplies up from 22 to 35, and this is due to the uniform services transferred to purchased. In our machinery and equipment, that is up from 46,000 to 72,890. We're going to get 2 new infrared heater extensions for the infrared truck. Therefore, we can do larger patches than what we're actually doing now. Makes us a little more efficient doing the larger patches instead of the smaller ones we're
What
doing now.
did we order? Did we order 2 of those infrared? Or did we just order 1 last year?
One truck.
1 truck.
One truck, yes, ma'am. A tract excavator for the landscape division. You might have saw the one they were using on the square to do the excavation with before they did the replanting. We would like to purchase one of those. A flail mower for the tractor mower. The blade we have now just cuts. It doesn't cut smooth. It doesn't float. So this flail mower will float and it will cut more even on the slopes and the ditches. Of course, we're going to need a new mid-mount mower. We take over McEwen this year. We're going to need more mowers to mow more grass. And 1 Motorola radio at $6,800. Repair and maintenance is down, thankfully due to a mild winter. We did use maybe 10, 15 tons of salt. We still have 2 buildings full of salt.
Good.
And
Sounds good.
so that is down.
March isn't over yet.
Well, I was looking at the
Mark,
extended
hush.
forecast, and it looks good. It doesn't look like snow, so.
We hope not.
Building improvements, we're going to add on, or hopefully add on, if it's approved, to the facility that Steve and some of the guys built this past year. And that's looking ahead to the future. We know in that area, we're going to have more roads, more 4-lane roads, and if we do have to get back into, or if we do get back into winters again, where we have snows, we'll have ample salt on hand to take care of that. Paving, we want to pave around the facility. We did not have that budgeted this past year. And the Liberty Park satellite facility, we now have the capability of running fiber to that building, so we can have computers, the employees can clock in, clock out there, and monitor their emails there. And the...
How long do they stay out there? I mean, they don't actually have an office out there, do they?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, they do?
Landscape maintenance
Oh, yeah,
has
that's
an
right, in
office,
that, in that building, down in,
Parks has an office.
down in that building.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
And if you're wondering about the leach aid construction at the compost facility, we were just informed about 3 weeks ago that TDEC now considers our compost facility solid waste. Therefore, we are going to have to permit it.
What?
Yes, ma'am. That's a long story. So after we...
That's not waste.
Well, that's what we said. But after we get it permitted, then they will come out and let us know whether we have to put in this leach aid, which is gravel on the ground to absorb anything that leaches from the leaves and the yard waste.
It's similar to what you provide at a landfill site where you have to collect the water in that way, or the
Yeah.
runoff.
Right.
That's a new
So the
wrinkle.
next step, we'll start
We can't get out of that? Come on.
Pardon?
We'll
be
start
creative.
testing it to see what's in our leach.
I think we ought to be
Well,
creative.
you know, Buddy's already got that done. Our compost is certified. It's some of the best.
That's right. So
Okay.
can't we get around that? Come on, let's think
any-
outside the box.
Well, that's a TDEC question.
Let's see, who do we know?
We put off our
That's T-Dot.
rotation of how we were resurfacing the streets. Where's that in this?
It's in street aid.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
coming.
I jumped.
That's coming. Hang on, Mike.
That's Joe's favorite
I'm
part.
going to need you, Mike. Any questions about street maintenance budget? Okay. Then we can move on to,
Can we have an updated list of our mediums that we care for? Remember, we did that before? The mediums that the city takes care of and the medium strips that the corporate take care of. Can we have an update of that
sure.
sometime? Email it.
And I know Vernon has been heavily involved with looking into what agreements we do have with other companies. So,
Yeah, I think, I'd like to have an updated list of that, because I think we need to stay on that again.
Okay.
Because we have an issue with that too, with some of our mediums that our corporations pay for in their master association, and what the city pays for, that we maintain those, and we are getting a lot of wear and tear on those mediums with the individuals that are selling the papers, and they're tracking and taking...
Medians, what is she talking about?
Median strips.
Okay.
And a lot of those, the grass, and this, this comes into our budget, because we have to maintain those median strips, and then we have to, the companies and the organizations, the master associations that pay money into that, and the taxpayers that pay that, and of course, here, it's going to come out of our budget, to repair those. And we have a lot of repairing to do, because we have many worn spots along in town, and they're getting worse. And Lariat and the ground covering is getting trampled, and it's going away as quick as the grass. So that's an issue, and that's going to be more expense.
I've got to go, let's bring that up when I'm here, because I have a dog in that fight.
You have a
Sorry, I
dog
missed
in
your
the meeting?
presentation.
But you have a handout. So
I do, I have it.
Let me ask you, if you're going to have to leave, could we take just a moment break from this and decide about our
The next meeting, that would be...
committee meeting?
Oh,
I think we'll be okay on the voting,
Right.
because we still have 3 people here,
Yeah.
thankfully. We now
I've got
have
to
4
go
people
too, I
on our
have a
committee.
meeting.
We did, wanted to highlight in April, we had anticipated in the budget schedule, I think the 19th, which is your normal scheduled meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. The night, and make sure I have this right, the 19th, which is your normal scheduled meeting, and the 26th as an additional special finance committee meeting, just to
Thursday.
kind of cover, which is the following Thursday, which to basically would cover the remaining departments on the 19th, and then the various other funds, revenue update, kind of cleanup, if you will, items on the 26th, which would be the following week.
That is the same night as the planning commission, but did someone tell me that we weren't going to have a...
A
We
pre-meeting.
did talk before
Yeah.
about starting earlier, even at 1 o'clock that day.
Hey, I'm good.
Because
If you could or
we may
wanted
get
to,
more, through more on the 19th than we anticipated.
Starting at 1 o'clock on the 26th or the 19th?
Either one.
On the
26th,
26th, because we have a conflict with the planning workshop and planning commission.
Just advance notice, I'm in.
Me too.
Could that work for everybody?
Yeah.
1
Okay.
o'clock?
Good.
So 1 o'clock on the
No,
26th?
that's good. That's good.
Like a long day for you.
Well, here's the other thing, is I'm not going to be here on the 19th.
Ann will not be here on the 19th, so,
Somebody
that
else
You
can
need to
leave that
change?
meeting.
I guess that's me.
I haven't learned the rules
that
yet.
would be,
That'd be me, I guess.
and that's really that'll be our just standard meeting with
What, the 19th?
the various,
Okay.
really administrative category. The only exception is we did bump solid waste back with all the issues we're working on there, but that would be included in the 19th. We also would probably talk about HR on the 26th because of another scheduling conflict. So that would be the only department that might slide there.
Okay, so, all right, so 4 o'clock on the 19th and 1 o'clock on the 26th.
Exactly. If
Okay.
that works for everybody.
Got it.
Right?
And are we going to bring up about maybe consider starting to meet on the first Thursday? I mean, not for this, because obviously we've got all this
After we're
already
through this.
planned, but after
Starting.
this.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
But
later.
we'll wait
Yeah.
until...
Yeah, we can-
After this gets over.
I'm
Yeah.
here for 10 more minutes. Well, 15, I can be here for
Okay.
15. I can be there.
Excuse me.
That's fine.
But
That's fine.
but I wanted to hear from all of our committee members where we were doing this. Okay, now, I'm sorry, go back.
Good.
now we're on to our traffic division. And as I mentioned earlier, we're asking for 1 new full-time traffic signal, street light technician in traffic. And operations, under repair and maintenance services, expenditures are up from $19,005 to $27,005. And that's due to the major intersections you see below that we're going to, hopefully, if our paving is funded this year, be milling and resurfacing, and every time we mill through these intersections, the loops get torn out, and the traffic division has to go back and reinstall those. Operating supplies expenditures appear to be up in this line item from $6,000 to $10,000. However, this is uniform services have been moved to uniforms purchase. As I said, these are the intersections that below that we're going to be needing more money for thermoplastic also, because once we mill and resurface, then our striping technicians go out and restripe all these intersections with thermoplastic, which that includes your continental crosswalks, your turn lanes, your arrows, and everything that's incorporated in an intersection. Under infrastructure, expenditures are up $30,000 due to LED street lighting within downtown. We're looking this year, if funded, to replace all the old traditional lights downtown with our LED lights.
Hey, let me ask you something about those LED lights.
Yes, ma'am.
Street lights, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the life of those compared to the ones that we have now?
Up to 15 to 18 years.
I thought, okay.
Whereas the existing bulbs, the metal halides, they could go out within 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, And the LED lighting is more efficient. The lights not only last longer, but the amount of electricity used is minimal compared to regular metal halide street lights.
The cost savings over time was, I remember when we talked about that, was pretty significant.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's a little more upfront because the bulbs are more expensive, but overall, it's the savings are.
Right. I remember we talked about that.
Yes, ma'am.
The other thing is, when we get rid of those lights, how do we dispose of them? How do we plan to dispose of them? Because there's mercury in them. Will we be taking hazardous waste?
Well, I don't know.
Solid Waste has some
they do.
proposals that they'll be bringing in,
you'll see
and one of
something
them will
about that.
talk about
Okay.
how we're going to handle these
Yeah.
LED lights.
We need
we
to-
just won't
we
throw them
need
in the
to- Yeah,
dumpsters.
I just want to throw that out there to make sure that we do put that in the back of our minds to address that, because there's going to be, we do need to address how we dispose of these. Okay.
Okay. And under machinery and equipment, expenditures are required for the replacement of a truck-mounted paint striping unit. The one we presently have is over 12 years old, and we have a lot of maintenance issues, and we need to upgrade that unit. Any questions about traffic?
Pretty self-explanatory.
The next page you'll see before we get to fleet maintenance, these intersections in black are the intersections where we now have the UPS systems or the battery backups. In other words, when the, it should be the
Page right before fleet.
Yes, ma'am.
That's Beverly, in this.
Oh, yeah. I thought we had it in here, too. No, you're talking about, I picked up the wrong thing again. Okay, got it.
Of course, what these do, if the power goes out, these intersections, the signals keep working because these battery backup units are there, and that not only keeps us from having to come in and do overtime, but it keeps the police officers out of these intersections, when the electricity goes out. These intersections operate just like the electricity is still there with these battery backup systems.
Wow.
The
Great.
ones highlighted in red are the intersections that we want to put battery backup systems in this coming year.
Here we go.
In fleet maintenance, and as I was telling you earlier, what Fleet Maintenance Supervisor David is trying to do in fleet, and we're requesting that one mechanic and one preventive maintenance technician be promoted to senior fleet maintenance techs. These employees meet or exceed all of the qualifications for a senior fleet maintenance tech job description, and they continue to work toward more certifications in addition to maintaining recertifications as needed. And then in addition, when these employees are moved up, we'll have an opening for a PM, this one PM technician has enrolled in Nashville Auto Diesel College. He is using his own money to fund his education. He indicates once he graduates, he's working with us now, he still wants to remain with the city. So that's another reason for wanting to move him up in the system.
And so will he be
He will be moved up
paid
to
at an additional-
the senior fleet maintenance tech.
with?
Yes, ma'am.
With a raise on accordingly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's great.
So I think we do need to take advantage of these kinds of situations.
Yes, sir.
Now that we kind of
Yes, sir.
rectified the space and height to be able to work on fleet, then it behooves us to have people qualified for almost everything we need to do. And if they do the extra certification, I think somehow it needs to be reflected on what that use is to us by not having to send those units out.
Right, absolutely. Moving on, we're also requesting that the administrative position be reclassified to a senior administrative assistant as soon as the job description and pay grade can be determined. This is not new personnel, it's just moving someone up to another position. And also, we talked about the PM Tech, and once that position comes open, we would like to refill that. Just like to say, these technicians have a greater vested interest than other employees. They'll spend approximately $40,000 to $60,000 for tools that it takes for them to work in-house. And these, as it says, these employees provide a high quality of work for our customers.
So you're saying they bring their own tools?
They buy their own tools. We do have a tool
Allowance?
budget allowance, but that in no way buys all the tools. And if David wants to speak to that.
It does, and it's Bev, it's kind of like a tool replacement for broken tools and everything. But these gentlemen, they supply their tools. They have a huge investment in their jobs. And if you come to the Hill and look and see, there's probably anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 in those toolboxes. They have those insured themselves.
Okay, I was going
You
to,
know, outside.
next question.
And their own personal inventories that we do that. Not only that, but the tools that we buy through the city, the specialized tools that we have for, you know, the special equipment and things that we work on outside of that.
And I would take it that comes under our policies for insurance as well.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Under operations, expenditures may be up this year due to increased workload and the aging fleet that may require extended service. With additional personnel and a new facility and a replacement vehicle policy, fleet maintenance may be able to keep these expenses the same or lower in the coming years. Parts and supplies, expenditures for increased repairs, as we said, due to the age of fleet and expired warranties, in addition to the overall increase in the cost of repairs to vehicles. And of course, we talked about the tool allowance, and we'd like to increase that from $600 to $1,000 per technician. Total tools expenses has increased significantly, and in addition to more specialty type tools that are needed to perform daily functions. Training outside, we'd like to increase that to $3,000. This is due to new technology in cars and trucks, and training is needed in order to be more efficient and perform quality work for the city of Franklin. Vehicles over 5,000, this is to replace a 1997 Ford service truck, which has more than exceeded its life expectancy.
Yes.
Computer hardware, MIT has suggested that we replace 1 laptop and 3 desktops for the next year. Any questions about fleet?
I'm just checking because our
We have
6:30
another
meeting has
meeting.
just
We have
gotten
another meeting,
canceled.
but
Oh,
it's
really?
been
Oh.
I
canceled.
think so. Well, they just text me, and I'm asking a question, and if I get that answer back, we're good to go, so no rush.
Okay. Moving on to our stormwater division. fuel and mileage expenditures are up from 40,000 to 55,000. That's due to all the street sweepers have now been moved under the stormwater umbrella. Machinery and equipment, under 25,000, expenditures are up from 10,000 to 15,800. This is due to, in part of, we need an attachment for one of our skid steer loaders. This will be a brush grinder that we can use in our maintenance projects throughout the city. And then machinery and equipment expenditures, we're asking for $145,000 to replace an old rubber-tired Komatsu loader. The Komatsu loader has been in service with us for 15 years. This past year, we spent over $8,000 on maintenance on this particular loader, so it's time to replace it.
What do you use that for, Joe?
This one is basically used at the compost facility when it's needed up there, and then used in our stormwater projects also. Any stormwater questions?
Y'all get the Battle Avenue stormwater design, is any of that in-house, or is that all contracted out?
I'm not sure.
It's all contracted out. Project will be, we've done a preliminary study in-house to try to get the scope of it, but the detailed analysis will have to be contracted out.
Moving on to street aid. As you recall, 4 years ago, our staff put together a 12-year milling resurfacing program. And that was to let the board know what it was going to cost over the next 10 to 12 years, each year, to provide the milling and resurfacing to keep our streets on a 12-year cycle. It was funded the first year. Obviously, during the last 2 years, the money just wasn't there. It couldn't be funded to its fullest. I think we basically used just the gas tax to fund that. This year, we're asking for $2,979,898. And if you look on the next two pages, you will see the number of streets that we have in the resurfacing program, the last two sheets, this year. And there's over 80 of them that we need to, some mill and resurface and some just resurface. The streets highlighted in blue, those are subject to water and sewer repairs or upgrades. And then the one in red is Reddick Street, which is over here where they just tore down all the old houses, the Housing Authority. So obviously we don't want to do anything there until we know what the Housing Authority is going to do. And then other than that, we're asking for $100,000 for sidewalk maintenance and repair throughout the city, which also includes repair and maintenance work we need to do downtown.
So how much of this is going to be funded by
Yes, ma'am.
street aid? How much?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Stuckey?
This is a thing we struggle with every year in this
I know.
budget is, you know, Joe and his folks a few years ago did what we asked them to do, which is to put together a schedule so we could understand what gets done when, and we could get on a, you know, a defined cycle on all this. And it wasn't just how do you decide what street gets done, but the funding level and the funding that we get through the designated source of the gas tax that comes back to local government doesn't get us anywhere near to a 13-year resurfacing cycle. So Joe and his team have prioritized and worked with the dollars the last 2 years. As Joe said, we only provided the funding that came from that source. 3 years ago, we did include some additional general fund subsidy. I don't know that it got us all the way there even then, but it did go towards that. And so that's the situation we're looking at again is, do we put any other general fund dollars in to close that gap and do more streets, or do we just continue to live with what the gas tax produces? That's our challenge, and the more we lag behind, the more that 13-year cycle turns into a 17 or 18-year cycle.
Yeah.
And Joe and his folks do sort of do kind of a prioritization or triage of these about what needs it most. But you know, we do push that cycle out, and it's sort of a service level discussion and decision for for the board and for us when we look at the funding level and what we can live with.
If we receive these funds this year, we're thinking we're going to be back to maybe a 13, 14-year cycle. We won't be back to 12, but we'll be close. But if we continue to count on just the gas tax, we're going to be pushed back to a probably 16, 18-year schedule. In the past, back when your streets were paved in Sturbridge the first time, those streets would last over 20 years. But
Yeah, which is what we talked about, because we were saying they hadn't been repaved.
All streets
for
aren't
more than
equal.
20 years.
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Oh, really?
In terms of
Yeah.
quality and
Yeah.
what they're going to take.
These days, 10 to 12 years
Wow.
is basically the life cycle of a street. So,
What I worry about is that if we stretch this out too much, we're going to have to do a lot more work and go deeper, and it'll be a real nightmare, because then we'll be always behind, and there'll always be people that'll be upset because we haven't done that. And I trust Joe and his people doing the triage on what's the most important part to do yet. Do they not get any facilities for
Road impact
maintenance? That's
fee,
not appropriate for...
See, road impact is just
Road
for
impact.
needs.
It's all expansion and capacity. These are all, this is all purely maintenance, so it's
Yeah, new growth, I
permitted.
should say. It's
Not
not for
new.
not new streets,
But I
but
mean,
for new
Most
growth.
cities,
Don't they calculate trips, and it's on existing roads too? I don't understand
they
why
do,
that's
but
not-
they do it to calculate what the next
Extra.
single-family home.
That's right,
Or
that's
the
right.
next 1,000 square foot of retail space or restaurant
That's right.
space.
if we
needs
add
to
a
kick
lane,
in.
that could be funded.
Yeah.
But we
yes.
can't do it for
But not maintenance of
resurfacing
existing.
an existing
That's
road.
It's crazy.
Well, but no, it's a growth tax. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
growth
Yeah.
fee, excuse me, not tax. It's a growth fee.
But my point is, those new people don't always drive on new roads. you know.
Yeah, we're all using the same roads, but that's what the statute allows us to do.
That's right.
And we're not alone. I mean, every city and county is in the same boat.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that the gas tax comes nowhere near being able to keep up with just the maintenance, with just the resurfacing.
Because isn't it predictable, as the cost of oil goes up, the price of asphalt's also going to increase here? Are we seeing
And,
that?
and the number of miles driven goes down. So, you know,
Because people can't afford to do
and
that.
people are going to be driven more to fuel efficiency. You
And
heard
there
that
you go,
tonight.
electric cars.
So
Which is less
there's-
gas
That's
tax.
few, yeah, that's
Which
right.
is less gas. So it's
Well, I've
almost
heard our
an inverse.
transportation director.
That's right, I have to.
He's banging that drum.
That's right.
So we have to look how to
Won't help
tax
us
people
this
in
year.
other ways.
So
I don't know about
I
that.
think what we're left with is local funding of a portion of this,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got to figure out how.
How to fix it. How about sidewalks? Have we ever had, and do we, I don't think we currently have a sidewalk kitty.
Kitty?
Yeah, I call it a kitty fund.
Yeah,
That's
this.
right, that's
And,
right.
you know, pull a portion of this.
I mean-
Street aid money for that.
Well,
You know, how do we build that sidewalk fund up? I mean, is there other ways to, besides holding bake sales and all that good stuff? Maybe a garage sale. How about a city sale? You know, honestly, we need to come up with some ways to increase our sidewalk fund to start addressing sidewalks throughout the city. Because, you know, I think that's something we neglect to try to figure out. I mean, it's, you know, I think outside the box a little bit, trying to figure it out.
Do we still contract out sidewalk repair?
we contract out some of it, but we're also doing some in-house. And,
Some of it,
Yes, ma'am.
smaller jobs, right?
Some of the smaller projects
Yeah.
are, you know, we have a
Repair
small
small,
crew
yeah.
that Steve has put together.
Yeah.
And we're doing some of it in-house.
Good work.
You'll see them shortly on Third Avenue South, down below.
Rich just
somebody's house.
left.
Wonder where-
Will the new, another new infrared truck is really for spot use?
Yes.
Will that help with any of these roads that maybe could benefit from just spot use and not?
Some of the
overall?
roads that have the smaller patches that need repair. But you take some of the major streets like North Carruthers, if you've been through there lately, you have long sections of asphalt that are just coming up. It's wore out. And
Gosh,
that
how old is that? That's not that old,
What
is it?
street was it?
You said
North
Carruthers.
North
Carruthers from Cool Springs to the city limit, there are sections of it where the asphalt has just totally come out. It's, you know, and you can't, infrared, that there's not enough oil left in the mix.
Oh,
You couldn't put
really?
enough rejuvenator with it
That's on our list,
to
isn't
make
it?
it right. Some of the local streets, and there are some local residential streets in here, that, you know, depending on how the funding goes, that they will be the first ones to be pushed back, because obviously the arterials and collectors are
these in
the
order?
ones that's going to have to be maintained appropriately.
Priority? Prime
The
and
question
secondary.
was, are they in order
Oh,
of
the
priority?
list.
Prime or secondary, right? Or is this, where's
They
the
are-
order
they are
of where we're
in-
going to tackle these?
The residential
Primary
streets are in,
Pardon?
the residential streets are in subdivision order, like
Right,
Royal-
but where do we pick? What's coming first?
Well,
The blue, the red?
the blue is the streets that are subject to water and sewer upgrades.
So you
Okay.
don't want
We'll
to
do
do
that
them
work
until we
in
get the water
conjunction
sewer
with that.
done.
Yeah.
All right, highlight in blue, well, okay, I see that.
Yeah.
How about the red?
The red one is Reddick, which is over here where the housing authority just tore down all the old units, and I'm assuming they're probably.
There's a
gonna build back.
redevelopment project that's
Coming
moving
up
forward there, so
right
we will
away.
do that at the end of that
All
redevelopment
right, so
project.
where do these other ones fit in? Do we just have to?
They're all in need of resurfacing.
And how do we choose those?
Well, depending on the
Who's we?
funding,
Too.
then, you know, we choose those. And like I said, we go with the
Streets
arterials
department?
and collectors first,
Yeah.
because that's
Arterials?
obviously.
More
the
heavily
streets-
traveled
That's
first, you
right.
work your
Right.
way down.
Right, and then the residential streets will come after that.
Okay, let me ask you something. I notice, and of course Columbia Avenue is state route, but this happens around town in different places on our roads. But if you go up Columbia Avenue, like you're headed up to MacHatcher, and right before you get there to the light, that pavement is so uneven
It's rugged.
that I'm riding and my car literally goes. And that's very unsafe, by the way. And that happens in numerous places in town. It's on our city streets. What's causing that?
Main Street is one of them.
What's causing that? Is it-
I'm not sure
Okay.
about the asphalt on Columbia at MacHatcher. I know exactly what you're talking about. But Main Street, when we milled and resurfaced that, in conjunction with monies that TDOT, you know, that year we had the maintenance agreement, that was the particular year that the oil was not good. And it's the oil in the asphalt
There you
that, that has caused that rutting. We're not experiencing that now with the new mix designs and the oil that we're
I hope
receiving
not.
these days.
It's too expensive to have that happen. So a fellow in my constituent, in my ward, had mentioned that. He had been in that kind of business, and he mentioned that we were doing something wrong or something. I couldn't remember what he told me because it was in passing, and unfortunately, he has passed away, and I can't go back and ask him that. But I do remember him asking me to find out about that, because he said something's wrong, and it's not holding, and then we have those ridges. And I noticed them quite a few places around town.
Yes, ma'am.
In Columbia Avenue Estate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we won't do anything.
and-
It's very dangerous.
Main Street is state also.
It says also,
Although you
right.
wouldn't know it
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, and people are not going down there 35, 40 miles an hour. I
No,
mean,
ma'am.
you never have traffic is, even if you don't have a car on that road, you still don't have that speed.
But that particular year, Main Street was resurfaced. That was the one year that we had the maintenance agreement with the state, and was state monies used to resurface that.
Gee.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to put my request in.
Well, so,
Something to think about,
that's
Miss Ann.
right, that's right. We've heard your comments. Okay. Is that it? Is that it for streets?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, boss.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Get back to my,
Well,
number 8.
Vanderbilt one.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Consideration of the ordinance to revise the Title 18.
Kentucky has to win or I can't go home.
Revise Title 18 to clarify service pricing.
Yes, ma'am.
This
Thank
is
you.
our residential, non-residential.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to that, but let's
This
go.
was a subject that we went through last fall, and the recognition that we needed to be able to come up with a standard definition between residential and non-residential or commercial for purposes of pricing our utility services. What I'm here for tonight is to ask for your concurrence that we move this on to work session in final form for the ordinance revision.
And this would be a work session type of item. We don't want to
Yes,
just put this on
absolutely.
consent or something like that. So
Absolutely.
we want to have a walkthrough with everybody on that. But wanted to bring it back to the committee since we had started the discussion with the committee.
And I guess it's just plain. But I noticed, you know, the things that were residential, that even duplexes, but it says only those with a single meter. But I also thought about homeowner association for their metered
Green space.
Yes, ma'am.
green space.
spaces?
Yeah, it's right there, green space,
ma'am.
and it's going to be commercial. So what would the difference in the price be?
The difference in water
Right,
is
good.
$2 on the minimum charge,
Right.
because the consumption rate is exactly the same,
Sure.
whether you're a residential rate or a commercial rate. So it's only that minimum tier, the availability
what you
charge,
mean.
that's different. It's a couple of bucks.
That's right, so that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So it only hits you at the minimal, and once you hit
that's-
the minimal, then the rate is
The
the
rest
same.
volume
Consumption
charges.
The
The
volume
volume is
charges are
changed.
exactly the same.
Okay.
But
But, I was just talking about for the water, for people that water things, though, but for the master meters on like multifamily, are they still the same?
it's the same kind of approach, where the availability charge, that minimum charge,
Right.
would be the piece that changes. Consumption stays the same.
And farms, though, too, will be non-residential? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if it's just the minimum rate.
Again, it's a minimum rate. We only have a few farms inside the city limits. We do have naturally more we serve about 20% of the water customers are outside the city limits of Franklin.
Right.
So
That's
it does
a good
affect
point.
some of those properties, particularly north of town.
Well, okay. So I don't know, we're just asking to get a
Move
motion
this
to
on.
move this to the
Yeah,
I move we move this on to a work session.
work session.
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Good.
The second item,
And the
there-
right,
item
the-
number 9, that's just for information, to give you a
Right,
status
interesting.
update
Interesting, I
of
thought.
the sanitary sewer connections as a result of y'all's actions to approve assessment districts out there to allow the city to make sewer available to those customers, and that just give you an overview of the success that's been done for those customers to tie on. And the thought being is that we provide you a periodic update of those routinely as part of the updates that are provided at the end of Finance Committee.
Right, I thought that was very interesting. So we're just taking this into it.
It's just informational.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
But very interesting. Yeah.
So 42 out of 108 in Monticello.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Monticello's had tremendous success relative, particularly given the size of that particular district. Hooper Lane, of course, on a proportionate basis, but it's a very tiny population set there.
But I thought that the assessments paid in full, 42 out of 108, was
pretty good number.
was rather a large.
Yeah.
I think we're
In
seeing...
about a year.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. And then the other items are the monthly reports. What do you want to say about
The one comment I'd make is there's not a revision on the revenue because we were waiting
that's
for a
right.
couple of things.
Just got sales
You
tax
know,
a day or so
and
ago.
that's one of the reasons why we continue to talk about moving this meeting to a different part of the month. And again,
Yeah,
after we get
right,
through with the
that's
budget
right.
this
That's
year,
true.
we really ought to think about that because it's very difficult for us by the 15th of the month, if this third Thursday falls on the 15th, to even have a chance of getting this stuff together for you. So, but we'll have a revenue forecast based on this coming out before the April 19th meeting.
Yes, because I think that's going to be an important
Yes.
aspect of the budget time. And really, we've already talked about the April budget
We got our meeting
schedule, and
figured,
that we're going to have our April 26th meeting at 1 o'clock, so that it won't conflict with the planning that day. Okay. Is there anything else then? Do we have a motion to?
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
All right.